Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and get things started here. So I have three big updates to share in the product, and I am going to share my screen and get started. In case this is your first ever Catch Up with Keeper webinar series, we do have time for questions at the end. Basically, we'll walk through all of the latest updates in Keeper, and we'll open things up for questions as we go. And if you have a question, please drop that into the Q&A section in the bottom of your screen rather than the chat so that we can monitor for it. All right, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and dive on in. Okay, so the first update I have is actually in the portal, and it relates to assignable questions. So assignable questions, for those of you who are not familiar, this is a way in the portal where you can assign specific questions to specific users. So especially if you have a lot of contacts that are assigned to a single client, this can be particularly helpful so that you can say, I want this person to see this question and answer it, rather than everyone seeing it and making it more of a free-for-all. If you have never done this and you want to turn it on, it's in your client portal settings under assignable questions. And then once you have it on, you'll see anytime there is a place to ask a question that has an assignee associated with it. So you can add an assignee for transaction, non-transaction questions alike. Okay, so the new update to assignable questions is questions can now be reassigned by the contact directly inside the portal. So in the portal here, the contact will see that question has been assigned to them. And if they are not the right person to answer this, they also have the ability now to reassign that question. So they can say, actually, I don't get the Capital One credit card statement, Kenny does. And so then you can make that change and it will drop out of your view. And then on the accountant side of things, as we refresh the page here, you're always able to see who reassigned the question to whom and who the question is currently assigned to, so you can get that nice paper trail and see things as they get moved along. All right. Okay, so that's it for the portal for this month. Next, I want to talk about a new set of sparkles you might see in your top right-hand corner, and that is Keeper Research, or our tax research bot. Essentially, this is an LLM trained on the Internal Revenue Code and IRS publications, and it is there to give you quick access to any questions you may have, whether you're doing the books, whether you are more in the tax prep side of things, which we will have more to share on, although not on this call. So here, basically, any question you could think to ask, you can ask, and the LLM is designed not to broaden its reach to anything it might have been trained on, but instead to just narrowly focus on what it knows from the Internal Revenue Code. So for example, this is one I feel like I'm constantly asking around your end. So it's like, do normal payments to an attorney go in box 10 of 1099 MISC? So for those of you who don't have to sort of deal with this, so 1099, there's the box 10, which is gross proceeds paid to an attorney in 1099 MISC. And actually the reality is, so I used to think that all proceeds paid to an attorney went in box 10. Apparently they do not. They go in the 1099 NEC, and only things like settlement payments that are paid to the attorney go in box 10. And so if you ask Keeper Research, it will tell you that. Oftentimes I'm asking it just to double check and sanity check on things like whether meals are 0 or 50 or 100% deductible. So for those of you who were at our recent Topgolf event, this was me doing our books and asking these kinds of questions. So yeah, you can really ask any questions you want of it, and it will only return any relevant resources. So one of the other nice things about this has footnoting. So you can just click into here and it will show you what it's actually using to answer that question. So this is publication 463, which is what covers what is and isn't what is and isn't deductible and to what degree it is deductible. Okay, toggling over to some questions. Julie asked, can clients see these questions? Not currently. It is something that we are exploring, is the ability to give you the ability to make this something that you can put into the portal. This is one of the reasons why we want to have something so locked down, is that way you're not giving your client something that it might hallucinate about, but instead is going to be very grounded in IRS details. But it is not currently available to the clients directly through the portal. However, I should mention Keeper Research is available at keeper.app/research. So theoretically, if you send your clients this link, they can access it from here as well. Okay. Christina asked, for the tax research bot, is it just in the US or is it for Canada as well? At the moment, it is US only. That is a great question. We do want to add a Canadian version and also state-by-state support very soon. So this is definitely just the first version of many to come. But for now, it is just IRS data and the Internal Revenue Code for the US only. Okay, Christina asked a question earlier about assignable questions. For assignable questions, can all client contacts see outstanding questions regardless of who they are assigned to? The answer is no. If a question is assigned to one contact, only that contact can see the question. Someone asked, what is the process for updating the tax research bot with correct information? If you see it give you an incorrect answer, please just drop into the support chat and let us know. And we are constantly iterating to try and make it a better and more accurate experience. So if you see issues with it, please do let us know, the same way you would let us know if something's wrong with any feature. Okay. All right. Last but not least, a very timely update to our 99s tool. We now have a new way to create custom 1099 reports. So the Prepare 1099 report has always been a great tool for 1099 NECs and MISCs, but it has not necessarily been a perfect tool for things like 1099 ints and 1099 divs that have both lower thresholds and more specific accounts that you want to look into. So what we did is we added the ability to create new custom 1099 reports that you can fine tune much more to your liking for the specific reporting on a particular 1099. Versus some of you may know there are zillions of different 1099s. The two next most common one after NEC and div are usually, or sorry, NEC and MISC are usually div and int. And so essentially the way these reports work is in contrast with the 1099s report, which has a few things that are sort of hard-coded to NEC and MISC reporting. So the meets 1099 threshold is hard-coded to $600. I know there's been some discussion for the 2024 filing season about changing that threshold. So if that threshold changes, this, of course, will also update as well based on whatever the IRS says. It automatically also includes all accounts and lets you exclude accounts that shouldn't be a part of it. So for example, if you purchased materials and you want to exclude those, you can exclude them there. So it's an exclusion-oriented report. In contrast with that, the sort of two main differences for the custom 1099 reports are, one, you can set different 1099 thresholds. So for ints and divs, that's $10 typically. And you can also, they are also inclusion-oriented. So instead of an exclusion list where you say, I want to show all spend in all accounts except these, this is an inclusion list which says, I only want to show spend in this account. And this tends to work better for something like interest, where you maybe have one or two interest accounts, or dividend payments where those are typically going out of a single account. And so basically you specify the threshold, you specify the inclusion account, and then you are left with a list of the vendors that have spend in that amount. So otherwise, it works basically just the same. You can come in here and enter in any missing vendor information. You can still ask vendor requests if you have their email on file. And the 1099 needed field still syncs live to QuickBooks as well. One thing to note here is this field is the same field if you see a vendor in both reports. So if you mark a vendor as 1099 needed equals no, here it would do the same in the Prepare 1099 report and vice versa. In most cases, that's going to be fine because your 1099 status is based mostly on your entity type. So if you're a corporation versus an individual, but there are some weird edge cases. Like if you sell fish, you have to like report this on, I think, the 1099 MISC, or more like maybe slightly more commonly if you are an attorney, but then you also receive interest or dividend payments. Theoretically, you might not need to get the 1099 int, but you would need to get the 1099 NEC corresponding to that. So that mostly shouldn't affect your workflow too much, but if you have these like very weird edge cases that you know about for particular vendors, would just recommend just being mindful of that. And at the very least, toggling something to unknown, which means it will still show up in both reports rather than no, and maybe leaving a comment on the vendor. Okay. So Brian asked, can we have different thresholds for 1099s, 10 for royalties and 600 for contractors? So answer is yes. Essentially, the stock prepared 1099 report is great for contractors, so your NECs and MISCs, and it's hard-coded at $600. But yeah, as mentioned, the prepared 1099 report custom, you can edit the particular dollar threshold. And if you wanted to add multiple ones of these, I suggest one per 1099 type. So one for divs, one for ints, one for royalties, etc. You basically click add report, add custom report here, and then you can title your report. And you can also click here to our help center, and that will explain how our custom 1099 reports work as well. This is also a written recap of the disclaimer that I gave in terms of the 1099 states being synced. Cool. Okay. One more thing I did want to mention on the 1099's report. So I think this might not necessarily be the most immediately intuitive setting. The first time you open this report is this toggle right here. All this is doing is, one, it's being a little bit of a visual indicator in terms of what you're actually like searching for here. So it's a little redundant if you have the title as named prepared 1099 divs, and then this is also 1099 divs. That's the one thing it does. The other thing it does is if you don't have a 1099 type here, and you have the vendor is 1099 needed is unknown, and then you switch this to yes, it will just automatically set the type to whatever you specify here. So that's all this toggle is doing right here. A couple of asks for 1099 export options. One is, can we add an option for e-file my forms export reporting? And then another is asking if this version of the custom 1099 reports supports exporting to track and tax 1099. Right now, this does just export as a stock CSV, but we are working on an option before January 31st to allow you to export these in the proper track or tax 1099 formats. Sandra asked, when will these new updates be effective? They should all be live. Everything I've shown so far is live in the product today. Kelsey asked, will 1042S be added as an option? Candidly, I don't know what a 1042S is. So maybe. Kelsey, maybe if you want to follow up afterwards. Basically an international 1099. Okay. I suppose theoretically, yes. I would have to look more into the like plumbing of how those are produced. But theoretically, this is designed to be a very custom, flexible report that's sort of built on the same bones, but to allow you to export or to filter for different criteria. Okay, Michael asked, will we be adding a dropdown or box for notes to indicate why a vendor over $600 may not require 1099? This is in Canny already, but it would be helpful to have this added as a 1099 tax season this time. So my typical recommendation here is to add a comment that's tied to this vendor. So if for some reason someone doesn't need a 1099, you can mark that on this vendor and just leave a comment there and say, this vendor does not H299 for such and such reason. And that way, if you come across that vendor, every time you come across that vendor, you will also see this comment box. So that thread sort of goes around with them. So that would be my recommendation there as well. Okay. All right, we have one more question, which was asked at the very beginning of the call, which is, if it is not already going to be covered, can you be sure to discuss the forthcoming email integration feature that we are going to roll out soon? So this is something that we've talked about for sure with lots of folks here. We are not quite ready to demo, but we will be working on an email integration that's going to support email much more natively in the product and much more robustly throughout the application. So a lot of the things that I think one of our top Canny requests is allow multiple emails to be integrated to Keeper so that you can send your email from your own personal email. So you'll have that. You'll have the ability to read your own emails. You'll have the ability to have shared collaboration and commenting, delegation, create tasks that are linked to email. So lots of fun stuff coming. I am not ready to talk about it on today's call. But if that is something that's of interest to anyone on this call, please be sure to stick around for next month's Catch Up with Keeper, where we will have, I think it's the day, I think it's either Christmas Eve or the day after Christmas, but either way, it will be a very exciting and very appropriate set of features we get to deliver to our customers. Jamie asked, will W8s be ready this year, or will that be next year? We'll have to get back to you on that one. There's a chance it might be ready this year, although I know we are sort of cutting it a little bit close. So definitely something we do and add support for, but I will have to get back to you on that. Okay. All right. Well, that appears to be all of the questions here. So if I didn't get to your question or you asked it in the chat and I didn't see it there, my apologies. I'll give folks another maybe minute or two to ask any final remaining questions in the Q&A. And otherwise, we will give folks another 40 minutes back in their what I'm sure is a very busy Tuesday before a hopefully very relaxing Thanksgiving on deck. Okay, Chet asked, is there a direct Google Calendar sync planned? Planned, I would say that on the longer term, definitely we want to add better support for a calendar sync. Although I will say on the short term, it is not something that you should expect to see in the next few months. But I would remind folks, we do watch our Canny posts like a hawk. So if there's functionality you'd like to see added to Keeper, please jump into our Canny. It's keeperapp.canny.io. I think I saw Lauren posting the link in the chat. So if you haven't seen it, you can go there, or it's also available in our chat. You can just click right here, see all of our posts. And if you add a vote there, if you just vote on a feature you want to see, we will update you as soon as that goes live. All right. Great. Well, it looks like that's everything. So folks, thank you all so much for joining us today on the last Tuesday of November. I hope you all have for the Canadians, I hope you just have a good rest of your week. For the Americans, I hope you all have a relaxing Thanksgiving. I definitely will say from the bottom of my heart, I'm very thankful and grateful for all of you, for the rope that you extend us, for the passion you bring to these calls and to all of our interactions, and for the opportunity to serve your practice and work with you. So I hope you all have a relaxing Thanksgiving, and definitely know that I am grateful for all of you.